Hello and welcome to Dropping at the Movies. I'm Mike.
And I'm Jose.
And we're talking about cats.
The way you say it.
We've been to see Cats.
Let me tell you, I liked it.
Okay. Well, then I'm glad that I left for most of it. Because that means I didn't ruin your experience.
Yes.
Which I thought I might, because honestly, for the first 45 minutes, I was genuinely squirming in my seat, incapable of sitting still. And I thought I went out. I thought I'll just hang around by the side of the cinema, post on Facebook about how shit this is, and just blow off a bit of steam, not disturb anyone. And then I just didn't come back. So I stayed there. I watched the whole film. But I just didn't return to my seat.
I know. Well, I thought you were away.
Yeah.
So what upset you so much about it, really? Because actually,
I'll tell you the other thing that happened is the manager of the cinema came to speak to me. Obviously, because a couple of people went out, came back, went to the toilet, whatever, and one of them must have complained.
Oh.
That I was standing there, because the manager came and he said, "What are you doing here?" No, he did. He said, "Have you got a ticket?" And I said, "Yeah, my mate's got it. He's just sat in there." And he said, "Why are you standing here? Why aren't you sat with him?" I said, I genuinely actually had to think and work it out for myself. Why was I standing there?
Why were you standing?
And the answer that came out was that I genuinely feel trapped in my seat, which I did. And he went, "That's a good reason." And then he sort of said, do you want to move seats? And I was like, "It doesn't really matter where I sit. I just I feel better with an escape route, really." And so he kind of left me alone. So thank you to the manager for being nice. Not because he could have just said, "No, you've got to sit down. You know, you're a fire risk or whatever." I said, "Well, no, I'm not a fire risk because if the cinema goes on fire, I'm the first one out."
Yes.
You know. Anyway, so I just stayed there for the rest of the film. So I did watch it all.
Okay. Well, you see, I liked it. Really, I mean, it's not a great film. But when I saw the trailer, it's like you wanted to kill yourself watching that trailer. It was the worst trailer ever, really, that I've seen. So I was really expecting the worst. And actually, I really liked it. You know, I thought, it was beautifully cast. There were moments of, like, real dance. Once you enter that world, really, it's a very easy world to be in. I mean, it's like an operetta, right? It's entirely sung, really. Yeah, and the songs aren't very good.
No, I mean, I thought that. There's one good song, which is Memories.
Exactly, right.
They're really not very good, nor are they well produced.
But, I kind of I entered that world and I kind of, I enjoyed it. I thought the performances were very good. And some of them I thought were better than good. Like, they were extraordinary. I thought the only one that was slightly off was actually Jennifer Hudson. It was just like too much, really.
She's the one who sings Memories.
Yeah.
About 3 times.
Yeah.
They really milk fucking Memories.
So, I mean, she puts her whole heart into it.
Yeah.
And she's very sincere. And I'm not sure that's the way to play that song.
Well, the trouble was with Memories, I thought. The trouble was with the film, for one thing, is that I was expecting a plot. I didn't know Cats.
No.
Right? I knew that it was popular and whatever, but I'd always thought it looked shit. Frankly, I mean, as a musical, you know what I mean? I'd always thought Cats looked shit, quite frankly, and because I always thought, how can you have a musical about cats? And I knew McCavity. I'd read that when I was a kid.
It works though.
Well, this is
it worked.
This is what I'm going to get to with the stage one, which obviously I'm not saying you have. You saw the original one, right?
I have, and to be honest, it was like a huge disappointment because I think I saw it in 1989. It had been running for 7 or 8 years. It was like one of the longest running shows in the West End, and so when I saw it in 1992. So when I moved here, a friend came to visit and we thought, let's go see Cats. Right, it's been running for 10 years. And what a disappointment it was, really.
Why?
Well, because I just didn't get it.
My feelings exactly.
And one of the things that I think will be a discouragement or something that will hamper the film's financial chances or chances of being a box office hit in America is that in a way it's a very British film. It's a very British show, right? Like the film posits this really kind of beautiful and enticing and rather glamorous, slightly seedy London.
Yeah.
Right? It's all in the London West End, Trafalgar Square, the Windmill Theatre, the Piccadilly Circus. It's kind of landmark London in its most glamorous and idealized, imagined form, really. So, that's part of it. And that's a real pleasure in the film if you have some affection or imaginary, or if you're invested in that imaginary in some way, right? Which I feel I now am. But I certainly, well, that didn't come out in the show. That's maybe, I think, more of the film, actually. But just, even the language that it uses, right? It is kind of Eliot's language, and it's the language of a certain time and a certain place, and a certain culture. I mean, I think T.S. Eliot was American, but living in London. But anyway,
he was American, and he moved here when he was about 25.
All that thing about eating salmon paste and grouse. I mean, I think Americans are going to go, what?
But it's selling a certain sort of image of London, though, I think, which is sort of recognisable, I guess. I mean, it seems to me like I suppose it does actually seem like an American's view of London. There's something kind of romanticised and stereotyped about it in a way.
Oh, but that's so much also part of British.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously.
No, I don't mean that in an overly critical way. It just sort of occurs to me that it's a little bit sort of, outsider's view. Like, this is what we'd like it to look like, type of thing.
Well, it's definitely what we'd like it to look like. I don't think it's an outsider's view. Well, it clearly isn't, right? Top Hooper's British.
Yeah.
So, and I kind of say I loved it. I loved all of that. I loved, the shot of, Idris Elba as the bad cat landing, on, what's his name? The statue in Trafalgar Square. Nelson's hat. All of that stuff I liked very much. I got into the film. I got into its world. The thing is that it's just not good enough.
No, it's not enough. Well, here's what I was going to say about the stage show, which is that, like I say, not seen it, but what I got from this, because this is where I think the film completely fails, one of the places it fails, is that it's obvious to me that because there is no story to speak of, there's a vague thing about this ball and how McCavity wants to win it and he's a baddie and they get Jennifer Hudson to win it instead. It's like a vague thing, right? That actually only shows up after about an hour of introductions to characters you don't care about. Like, the whole first half of the film is introductions to characters and just their songs. Terrible, rubbish. I don't care about any of that. But what was then obvious to me was that, well, this is really, like, I think the attraction on stage is the production and the dancing. That has to be what the attraction is. And you can see it, they try and do a bit of that here. They have these kind of stage-like choreographies. Yes. And they try and do even a little bit of, like, Busby Berkeley.
Yes.
With the stairs and the rats going through their legs at one point on that cake. And the chorus line of Beatles and what have you.
Cockroaches.
But it's just not. I mean, a complete failure, kind of visually. Sort of, it actually doesn't evoke anything that exciting. And actually, I think this is the kind of musical that people who don't like musicals and don't really know anything about them imagine this is what musicals are like and hate it for this reason. So the way the main character, whatever her name is, the girl who basically doesn't speak very much, but is...
I think she looks lovely.
She looks lovely, but she's the one who's your introduction to the whole world, right?
Yeah. And let's not leave it at that. Let's find her proper name. Okay, all right. I thought she looked lovely.
Francesca Hayward plays Victoria. That must be her. Here we go.
Yeah.
She's an English ballerina and principal dancer in the Royal Ballet in London.
And you can tell.
You can absolutely tell because she's all about these sort of elegant movements, very expressive pirouettes and legs up in the air and all this sort of stuff. And it is exactly what people who don't know anything about musical theatre think it's like, and they hate it for that reason. And just go, well, it's almost parodic.
Well,
the way she moves and the way the other characters move, it's fucking stupid.
I didn't think that.
I hated it.
I know you did, but I didn't.
Well... And
I think if you lend yourself into that world, if you take an imaginative leap...
Oh, don't give me that. It's just terrible.
Don't give me that.
Don't give me
true,
that.
Though.
No, it's not. It's a confusing film. I mean, for the first 15 minutes or so, and this is partly because, if you haven't seen anything about this, right, that... they've CGI'd everyone into cats, but they're not cats. They're kind of cat bodies, but they walk upright, and they're actually human bodies, basically with fur and tails. Like they have human limbs, right, and human faces, and it looks extremely weird. And one of the things that occurred to me is that you never actually get used to this.
I got used to it. I loved it.
Oh God, really?
I did. I thought it was fantastic.
I questioned it the whole way through. I could never get accustomed to it. I was constantly going, but you're not cat. This looks weird. And I'll tell you one thing, and this is a really serious thing, is I don't think the film looks finished. I don't think the rendering looks finished. There are, especially early on in the film, when they're all dancing around the cobbled streets of London, the characters don't actually look convincingly like they're standing on the floor. There aren't shadows where there should be. The lighting isn't finished. The faces don't even look attached to their heads. It looks unfinished. It looks extremely fucking weird. When you get characters like looking directly at the camera, their faces do not match with their heads and body movements. It's extremely weird.
No, I mean, I think you do. To be honest, the thing about the shadows and so on, I didn't look, so you could very well be right about that. I'll abstain judgment on that. But I think there was like wonderful things, like the movement of their ears choreographed, to their facial gestures. That was just wonderful. Little accents that they put, through ear movements. I thought things like the whiskers, were wonderful and thought through. Like the older they were, the more whiskers they had. I thought the plot of the film, which was really about, this gang of cats choose who goes to heaven and gets reborn gets a different life.
Jellicle cat. What the fuck is a jellicle cat?
Well, it's angelic. Ugh. I know. There's that kind of.
I mean, I thought, what the fuck are we? 5 years old?
Well,
and then it turns out, actually, T.S. Eliot wrote this.
You're meant to be 5 years old in spirit.
But the thing is, T.S. Eliot wrote this for kids, so it kind of makes sense that it's so stupid. But 5-year-olds don't go to see stage musicals, and they go to see musical theatre. Well, this is for adults now. Grow up. Well,
I don't agree. I mean, to be honest, I can't make great claims for it because I didn't find it moving and so on. But I did think that the dance thing worked. I did think that, I mean, Tom Hooper is one of my least favorite directors, but I do think he's learned a lot since he did Les Mis, which was just unbearable. Right, this is much better than Les Mis, which was a huge hit. I thought the performances were almost uniformly great, including people like Ian McKellen, who really grates on my nerves. I thought he was wonderful.
Really?
And yes, and the younger cast was wonderful. And Judi Dench's closing speech was a magnificent piece of acting.
Well, I mean, I suppose. It's terribly written, and she's a cat, so I suppose the fact that she sold it is definitely worth a round of applause.
Yes.
she made something out of absolutely fuck all. You can give it that. I'm amazed that you like it.
I know. I'm amazed that I liked it.
Staggered.
I'm amazed that I liked it as well, but I did. And
I was amazed that I hated it so much because I was expecting the worst, and I didn't go in thinking, oh, I'll hate this and whatever. Like, I thought, fine, we're going to go see it. It'll be awful, but whatever, we'll spend a couple of hours.
I thought we'll have fun. I thought it was going to be so awful, we'll just have fun.
Yeah.
Though, I already thought it's bad news when I'm making cat gestures with my hand and you're going, if you're doing that, I'm moving.
But that wasn't...
This is not going to be an entertaining watch.
But that wasn't because I was in a bad mood about the film. That's because don't fucking do that. That's so stupid. Piss off. Don't put your hand out in front of me. I said to you,
I thought you were in a bad mood.
I'm going to move, and I did move. But that wasn't because he did that. It was because genuinely the film was so much worse than I could have imagined. Like I thought, as you say, it'll be terrible, and I'll be confused. But whatever. And actually, I thought I was slack-jawed for the first 15 minutes of the film. I couldn't believe what I was watching. Well, I couldn't believe that they were doing this.
I must say, I was charmed.
It made no sense as well. I mean, this is someone who hasn't seen the stage show, so I'm not accustomed to any of the songs, and I'd only read the one poem.
The songs are not memorable. That is a fact.
And the start, it's just this nonsensical song about a jellicle cat, a radical cat, or whatever the fuck cat, and everyone's talking about
kinds of cats.
All these different types of cat, and you're going, okay, fine, so there's cats. But so you start off with this new one, this Victoria, landing in the middle of a back street in London,
thrown out
in a bag, And they open up the bag, and there she is. And so she's getting introduced to the world, but you don't know who she is. They just start banging on about fucking cats. And then they start singing about this type of cat and that type of cat. And I thought, okay, it's a bit of an introduction. And then it just happens for another hour.
Yes, you're just being introduced to different kinds of cats. Each gets their number. Each does a little dance. You know, I thought...
And nothing moves.
I thought it was really quite subtle.
I don't know, but I suppose what I'm getting at is the main character in the centre of it, who is new to this world, I'm not learning anything about. I'm not attached to this character. It's like the stage show is as much for her as it is for us. It's just about the stage show. It's just about the numbers.
No, she grows, she develops, she learns, she falls in love.
Not in that first hour. In the first hour, there is no development of anything.
Yes, she is. She's taken advantage of by those burglar cats.
It's business though. It's not character development. It's business. I'm not getting attached to her. You know, by the end of the film, I'm not attached to her.
You're not looking at a Shakespearean drama.
I know
it is a musical about cats.
Yeah, but the point is, like, when I come out and go, I hate this film for all these reasons. This is the kind of thing that you will then remember and go, see, I knew you hate musicals, and I don't hate musicals. I like good musicals. This is one of the worst things I've ever seen in my life.
Well, you see, there I draw the line. I disagree with you. You know, because it's not even the worst thing I've seen this week.
What have you seen this week?
The Michael Bay film on Netflix is, put a bullet through my heart, really.
Okay, well, that's Netflix. I mean, why would you bother?
So, I thought this was, like, perfectly acceptable, perfectly charming. People who love the show will love it. The singing is very good. The choreography is very good. The cast is wonderful. And the way that the London that is imagined in it, which is very CGI and postcardy and so on, but I also found it very charming. And actually, even the pace of the film, the way that it moves, the whole railway sequence where they go on the train and then they move on the track and they cross through a bridge, the way that it moves through those spaces, those are filmic spaces. They're not like stage show spaces, and they're done with some imagination and flair. Which I haven't been able to attribute to any of other.
There's an element of that, I suppose. But I think I found it inert emotion. I was trying to think, apart from the few moments where there are obvious jokes that I was supposed to laugh at, which I didn't, but whatever. That I just didn't think they were good jokes, but they were obvious jokes. And actually, I think James Corden was
wonderful.
Maybe the liveliest thing about the film, and he
really, was wonderful.
So I liked him actually, and he is like really the comic centre. Him and Rebel Wilson, who I didn't think was very funny at all.
No, she wasn't very good.
But apart from the jokes, I was thinking, what emotions actually am I supposed to be feeling here? For most of it, maybe at the end it was obvious as well. You're supposed to feel happy that they got her into heaven or whatever.
It doesn't get to you emotionally.
I couldn't.
You're right.
But I couldn't work out what emotions I was supposed to be feeling, apart from a bit of laughter, wonder, maybe.
No, I think. Well, for me, the film aims at conveying a certain kind of theatrical flair and pleasures of sensation, right? Like, you're supposed to appreciate the movement. Like, everybody moves really well in it. I mean, I would imagine that quite a lot of them are either dancers or they've been trained to dance. Yeah. You can tell, for example, when Taylor Swift comes out, and I think she's very good as well, actually. I thought she was wonderful from the head up. And then, from the head down, she's very stiff in all her movements, right? But there's a pleasure in watching this cast move, in doing the choreography, in kind of, in just kind of doing the numbers, really. I enjoyed it very much.
I think that's probably our central disagreement then, because I agree with you that that's actually what the film is aiming for, and what the show, I'd imagine, on stage is good at. But I think that's where this completely fails, because like I say, that all feels inert and reasonably incompetent to me, and I can see what it's going for at certain points. But I had no investment in anything, and I was constantly, like I say, not accustomed to, not able to look past how weird it looked and what this weird decision was. And for instance, so when Jennifer Hudson sings Memories, I guess the third time, when she sings in the climactic moment and she's singing it to Judi Dench, in front of everybody, there's a cut. Where you're on the Victoria character, and then you cut back to Jennifer Hudson, and that's when the huge belting note "Memories" comes out. And it's a very powerfully sung notes, very powerfully sung word, what have you. But I thought, God, imagine how much more powerful this would be if I were watching Jennifer Hudson singing it.
I think the thing is that actually, to me, maybe one of the problems is Jennifer Hudson. Because I think she gives herself to the role so much. But, it's like, she's singing this very light song that should be sung, I think, in a light soprano. And she's giving it her all emotionally. Like, as if she was singing some, deep down blues or something. And, like, she's got snot coming out of her nose and tears coming out of her eyes. And she's really giving it her all. And it's a mistake.
Well, there's also not a lot of modulation, because between the first and second time, maybe I'm imagining the third time she sings it, but there's definitely
the other cat sings it. The young cat sings it several refrains from it several times.
Right. Okay. Anyway, the first time it came up, I heard the notes and I thought, oh, this is Memories, but the problem was it was, in a plot sense, entirely free of context. I mean, at least all the other songs, as unmemorable and pointless as they are quite obviously about telling you who these cats are, in as much as they actually sing, I am such and such a cat and here's who I am, basically. Yeah. And Memories is free of context, so the emotion...
It's not, no. Well, they tell you, she used to be a big star at the Windmill Theatre, and now she's homeless.
I found it...
But she can hold on to her memories.
Well, maybe not free of context then, but free of identification, emotional attachment. I had attachment to no one and nothing in this, which I think. I mean, it's superficial. It's superficial in every sense. Actually, I mean,
it's light, and the score just really isn't good enough. But I must say, I was charmed by the dancing, I was charmed by the performances, and I was charmed by the world it kind of created. And for me, it succeeded in creating it. And some of the things that people have been going on and on about online, about, the CGI of the cats and so on, I thought it worked very well.
Wow. It reminded me of, like... it made me think about the recent election in which the Tories won the huge landslide, because it kind of made me think that, like, it's the perfect film. And seriously, this is what I was thinking. It made me think, like, this is the perfect film for a world in which everything is fucking crazy and wrong. Like, nothing makes sense anymore, and so does this. And actually, and then in a sense, it made me think of, like, how people are kind of looking back at Ed Miliband and going, all of this is Ed Miliband's fault for not being a better leader and not winning the election way back when. And I thought, like, it's silly to blame him for that. But if he can be blamed for that, then I can blame T.S. Eliot for this. I go back to T.S. Eliot and say, don't write such a stupid poem for children. Well, because then Andrew Lloyd Webber wouldn't have cottoned onto it and written some shit songs and made a few bob, and then they wouldn't have made this.
But people have been enjoying. People have been enjoying this material for generations. So both as those poems for children, the show was like, one of those huge Andrew Lloyd Webber hits that ran for decades, not just years. Right, so kind of people have been enjoying it. And I think the people who enjoyed the stage show will enjoy this. I went in expecting the worst, and if this is the worst, I can bear it. I had quite an enjoyable time. Though, the rest of what you say, I agree with. I mean, it's not a great musical by far. It doesn't thrill. It doesn't really engage you emotionally. But
did you think it engaged you aesthetically?
Yes, I think, it did. And
so you talked about that you like the look of London, but what about the look of the cats or the look of the way it was shot? I
like the look of the cats. I like the look of London. The way that it was shot was still a problem, though. Like I said, I think, there's a huge improvement in his work here to his work in Les Mis, right? So I think it's
where do you think that improvement is?
Well, just in terms of the use of space and of rhythm, you don't have like the stupid camera that moves for no reason. I think actually the camera now seems to have a reason for moving.
Yeah, I agree with that. The camera seems more motivated than it is in his other work.
Yeah, it's purposeful. And actually, I was just charmed by the performers. To me, that was like a main source of engagement was really the performers. The magician, the young magician.
We looked up his name.
Was marvelous.
Laurie Davidson, Mr. Mistopheles.
Yes, and also the guy who played Monkestrap was lovely.
Robbie Fairchild. Which one's Monkestrap?
He's the one who dances with the star almost all the way in the beginning.
Oh,
right,
the one
stray.
who the one who like introduces her to the
yes,
world.
You know, and I love the way he danced and moved and so on. And then, like I said, I really liked
James Corden.
I love James Corden, which is unusual for me, and I really like Taylor Swift as well. Like, you know, so yeah, I mean,
Idris Elba as McCavity.
I liked Idris Elba.
Wow,
I did.
Fucking hell!
Yes,
you've changed, man.
I know. I think he hasn't made an impression on film, but actually, I thought he was very entertaining. I love the green eyes. I loved his outfit. Yeah, just kind of that black fur. He's also into it. He's giving a real kind of theatrical performance, and he's very good. So
I would say that as much as I think there are weird decisions and problems with the design and the look of the characters and so on, the ones that most resembled the humans on which they were based, which I would say would be Idris Elba, Judi Dench, probably Ian McKellen, and Jennifer Hudson. Like they very, very closely resemble the human faces. I actually found those extremely convincing, and I think they were well put together. To the point where I think it's actually the faces and the way that the faces are turned into these cat heads is extremely convincing and impressive. Actually, and I think that's really good work. I still think it's weird and something I couldn't get past. And you know, I'm so confused the whole time, and you know, and points I'm going, why are the cats small and now they're big, and how come some of them get to wear coats? You know what I mean? You know, it's like it's full of those sort of things. But I suppose that is what you're talking about letting yourself get into it. And I honestly didn't feel like I was trying not to get into it. I didn't feel like I was trying to be an asshole to the film. You know, I think it did keep me at arm's length with all that stuff.
Okay.
But there were things to it I could admit that worked.
I found the young star, the girl, what's her name? Victoria, the one who played Victoria.
Francesca Hayward.
I found her enchanting. And I found the guy who played the magician, you know, who they end up falling for each other near the end. They're nuzzling.
Laurie Davidson.
I thought he was marvellous.
I quite liked him.
So, you know, I
suppose it surprises me that the show is so big and has lasted so long on the basis of such poor songs.
That is one of the great questions of West End theatre, right?
Am I not the first one to ask it?
Well, you know how people go against, you know, Andrew Lloyd Webber, and this is kind of one of the reasons why. I mean, really, you know, there's one memorable song in the whole show, and even that's not very good.
Yeah,
right?
and a memorable theme as well.
Memories, oh fuck off.
The Memories is a memorable song, and it's got that memorable theme of the da 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 da.
Well, it's got a run through thing, but it's not particularly good either, right?
No, but it's memorable.
Yeah. So, you know, but
yeah,
that's a given. You know, that is what the show has worked with. Now, the show could have done something different, right? Because the thing is that obviously the source material is so rich that it continues to live and so on. They could have used the poems to write a brand new score and make a film of that. You know, so there are other maybe more interesting and more imaginative ways that they could have worked with this material. They clearly worked with it at this point because CGI makes it possible to do this really as a movie. Weird. You know,
have you seen Starlight Express?
No.
Oh, right. Because that's the only one that looks worse than this to me. Which I know my mum wants to see. She's wanted to see it forever. Maybe I'll get her tickets. So I had to sit through this, so you have to sit through that. And I wanted to ask, how would you rate it in comparison to The Greatest Showman, which we had not a great time with when we saw that?
No, I thought The Greatest Showman was very poor. The Greatest Showman, two things. So first of all, it had much more memorable songs. And it had songs that connected with a contemporary audience in very particular ways, right?
Original songs as well.
and original songs. So in that sense, it's not comparable. I think in terms... Oh, and also it had star performances, that were real star performances that really stood out, that are more powerful than here. Because this is really like, an ensemble cast. Yeah. Whereas, that was a star vehicle.
Hugh Jackman and a bit of Zac Efron.
Yes. And also Mel Williams something.
Oh, yes. Michelle Williams.
Michelle Williams, yeah?
Yeah. Yeah, okay, I guess, yeah.
So, it had like 3 star performers. It had better songs. And then like the Zac Efron number, like it was real choreography and it let you see it properly. So the dance was... His number was filmed almost better than anything you see in Cats.
Is that the one that I've tried to talk up to you, the one with him and Hugh Jackman in the bar?
Yeah, but I like that. I always like that. I just kind of...
I think I had to slightly talk you around to it because I said I'd been rewatching it.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the thing is that I thought the dance in that film was very badly filmed throughout, but that was the best, to me, the best number. So,
I think I get the credit for helping you reach that conclusion.
Anyway, the thing is, I can understand why The Greatest Showman was a much bigger hit than this is going to be.
Yeah,
but actually, I don't think it's a good film either. You
don't expect this to be, because that what I was reading earlier, that had 9 million on its opening weekend, but went on to have this 20-30 week run that ended up with $175 million in the US.
It's not going to happen with this. There's going to be no hit song from this show.
This is going to die a death.
I think this is going to die a death, but I enjoyed it.
Like a true critic, you go against the audience.
Well,
and all of the critics, in fact.
I'm not making a point of it. I'm just talking about the way I felt watching it. Which I did enjoy it. I mean, you probably, if you were looking from, where you were standing up, you probably saw me shaking my head. And actually, I wasn't bored. I didn't look at my watch once,
really?
Right? Like, I was with it. I mean, I wasn't bowled over or thrilled or thinking this is a great masterpiece of the cinema, but I was with it. Let's summarize, though. I mean, we have a a
difference of opinion.
A difference of opinion. I went in expecting the worst, and I really liked it. I don't want to make any great claims for the film, but I also kind of want to put a break on this let's jump on the let's hate Cats bandwagon, because I think that is now becoming a thing.
Okay.
And actually, I think the film doesn't deserve it. I think, if you liked Cats the show, you will love this.
I say jump on the bandwagon. I was confused and disappointed and frightened and
so is there something
bewildered.
about men dressed up in cat costumes that freaks you out?
Well, I thought it was a girl.
Is it the cosplay?
I thought it was a girl who sat next to us.
we had someone in the audience doing cosplay as a cat.
At the end of our road, just sat on his or her own.
Yeah.
Which I thought it was a girl, but Jose thinks it was a guy. So,
yes. Maybe if he or she is listening in, they can write back and tell us.
And that'd be fascinating to know what they thought, quite frankly, because.
But
to me, it looked like whoever they were waiting for friends who didn't turn up. It looked to me like.
Perhaps
I felt kind of bad for them. Especially because also the audience, it was not a full audience or anything. This was a Friday evening, but it was quite a light audience, and the film wasn't getting reactions from anyone. And you kind of thought it might have got reactions from a more full crowd. On the other hand, it might have just got laughs.
It might have. There's a whole area of the population that really wants to get into it, right? To the extent of going in cosplay to the film. So
could you imagine it becoming like a camp hit?
No.
Not like a drag thing?
No, because actually the sincere bits I think are quite well done. So, it doesn't work, it doesn't try to be camp, and it's not bad enough to be
genuine camp.
Genuine, yeah.
Like a genuine
or to be
failed.
Kitsch. To be so bad it's good, right? This is not so bad it's good. I think this is quite pleasant and quite in its own way, within its own terms, and burdened by that horrible score, it's quite good.
Yeah, I'm glad that we sort of, that I forced myself through it, because
you're a trooper.
I would have always wondered, if 30 or 40 minutes in, when I walked out, I had just left, I would have wondered what I'd missed and how bad it had got.
So now you know.
At least I've seen it from
now
an
you have
angle.
a position to defend.
Yeah, exactly, and I will, and I really think it's truly weird, incompetent, bad decision making. That doesn't. I mean, it genuinely makes no sense to me at all. Anything in this, really.
Well,
so
I was charmed.
Okay,
and I liked it.
Well, the majority is with me, and as we know, the mob rules.
Okay, well, on that note, thank you very much for listening. We are eavesdropping at the movies.
Star Wars next.
Star Wars next.
Yes. On Sunday.
On Sunday.
Yes, we're on iTunes, SoundCloud, YouTube, and Spotify to listen to us. On social media, we're on Facebook and Twitter at Eavesdrop Movies, and the website is eavesdroppingatthemovies.com.
Thank you very much for listening.
Goodbye.